This is Power of the Tribe podcast. I'm your host, John Connors, and I have a challenge for our listeners and viewers today. I challenge you to listen and view this entire podcast. If you can't do it, you're weak.
From beginning to end?
From beginning to end, Dan.
Oh, that's a tough one.
We're going to find out we're going to separate the weak from the strong today.
And does this challenge apply to you and I as well?
You're going to stop listening?
The whole thing, though?
I notice you nod off sometimes.
I'll do it.
All right. Well, Dan, I'm kidding, but that's the theme. You know, I went out to lunch with my son, Rory, today, and it occurred to us, something obvious, something that's probably occurred to you, that if you're not getting stronger, you're probably getting weaker. If you're not getting harder, so to speak, you're getting softer. There's no such thing as stasis, staying in one place. What do you think?
I definitely agree, and I'm definitely getting softer lately.
Dan, I don't know how long, the last month at least, I've been getting so soft. I'm disgusted with myself.
But I think it's worth pointing out because I think there's this, at least some group of listeners that seem to get angry at any sort of thing that they perceive as criticism toward them. So we've had two examples. One is people think we're literally talking about them. Like
Right.
we've had that before where it's like, hey, why'd you mention me on the podcast? And we're like, we didn't mean you.
What's he thinking about them?
And then there's people that they don't even know us, so they know we don't mean them specifically, but you say something like you're getting softer if you're not getting harder, and they just get mad. They're like, well, I have an injury, so I blah, 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 and it's like,
very true.
You're taking it personally in some weird way, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people do take things personally, and maybe that's not a bad thing. We do want to reach people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hear you. I've been getting soft, so I'm taking it personal.
Yeah. So that's why I feel like all the time I mention like, well, I'm not immune to this. I do it, or you know what I mean?
I think we always admit it, right?
Yeah. But also, I think where it really matters, I'm not just complaining like, why are you taking it personally? It's like, it's a problem when there's advice to be had there or a thought to be had there, and you're getting angry instead of listening to, you know.
Oh, right. It's a form of resistance.
Right. Like,
I'm not going to take your advice.
Screw you.
Screw
right.
you.
So when you're saying you need to if you're not getting harder, you're getting softer, I'm like, I'm not saying screw you. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting softer. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I should try
and
to
you're right.
turn
Those
it around.
messages are not that popular. So last week we did a podcast about everybody should compete, basically, in jiu-jitsu. And it got received, but not as strongly as some of our other episodes. And I think that was part of it. Like, people feel bad if they're not competing. They take it as a criticism, and nobody wants to be criticized. So they just reject the message. And it's probably not the approach. You know what I mean? So if you're rejecting that message, you're probably getting softer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried to turn it around physically, by the way, like trying to work out and starting to eat a little better. But I did the whole year of COVID. I did a 2020 lazing around and eating what I wanted. And
it was so easy to do that, Dan, wasn't it?
So as you know, I'm trying to turn that around, but I'm turning it around slowly. I'm not perfect about it, you know.
It's hard.
Yeah.
If you don't have a compelling reason, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing.
How the hell are you going to do it, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how you're going to do it.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. It's hard when you're not like, I don't know, if you're a professional athlete, you've got a real motivation. Right. And even professional athletes don't always work out or eat well, right? They keep talking about now how like it's this new idea led by Tom Brady and LeBron James, and to some extent Russell Wilson, that are like, these athletes are actually working out and eating well all the time. And it's like this revelation for people making millions and millions of dollars a year. It's like, Tom Brady takes a trainer with him on vacation to work out and cook his meals or something. And it's like, shouldn't they all be doing that? Like some version of it? It's like
when you're making $25 million and up, you can it's probably a worthwhile investment, right?
Based on your body?
Yeah.
And just like, wow, it's incredible. During the off season, he's still stretching. And I feel like, isn't that like the minimum they should be doing?
That reminds me of Roberto Duran back in the day, in the 80s. He had 2 fights with Sugar Ray Leonard, and he won the first fight, which is basically an upset, but he kind of psyched out Sugar Ray, and he won the fight, and then he just went on a binge of eating yo-ho, ding-dongs, and all that,
drinking and
just madness. And Sugar Ray Leonard realized, oh, let's get that rematch immediately.
Yeah.
And then that was the famous no mas victory where Roberto Duran complained that he had a stomach ache or something, right?
He'd gotten soft.
Yeah, he got soft fast too,
Yeah.
right?
And to our point,
Yeah, he was he was the friggin' toughest guy in the world,
arguably in the whole world. Yeah,
and he quit.
Yeah.
He said, "No more, no mas."
I'm just getting a beating.
Isn't that amazing? How soft he got so fast? That's crazy, right?
Yeah. And so that's the point. Like even these guys who have more motivation to be fit and do the right thing physically for their bodies more than anyone listening will ever have. Right. And they're still not always doing it.
Yeah.
So it's hard when it's like, especially if you're not, actively dating, so you're not trying to look your best, or you know what I mean? Like it's like, wow, I really have to like control my eating and work out every day, and it's hard.
It's hard
because your brain starts fighting back. It starts going, well, why? It's like some message, like it'll be Saturday morning and I'll be like, I should run. Your brain's like, run. Like, what? Just
why?
Put on the TV. Why do you need to run?
Crazy.
Yeah, like do some push-ups. That happened to me today. I was like,
Yeah?
I should really do some push-ups. I don't want to leave in the snow, but I'll just do some push-ups.
Okay.
And I didn't do it. Like
How many push-ups did you do?
I did 0. I did sets of 0. 5 sets of 0.
Oh, huh. Well, at least you're consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, at least I got that extra set in. I almost stopped at 4 sets of 0.
Oh, man.
I was like, I can't do another set of 0. But I did that one more.
You are definitely getting softer.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I was like, again, my brain was like, really? Are you going to do push-ups? Like, can't you what about a nap?
Well, we've evolved to conserve energy. So I've talked about that ad nauseum here. That's the human animal. If they have a piece of food 10 feet away or 1,000 feet, they go for the 10 feet. That's just the way we're evolved. So we're always trying to conserve energy. And then we're also evolved if we see like very sweet calories around. Sugar is completely addictive. Like we have to eat it. So now we're in a world where you really don't have to work that hard and you have abundant sugar. It's no surprise we're all obese, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Most people, not everyone, but most people for their jobs, they don't need to be strong or fit, right? Like you don't need to. You do actually. You know what I mean? You have that rare job where
it's still freaking hard. Yeah. I'm in there 7 days a week. I recorded a video yesterday showing a technique. I looked at myself in the video and I got this paunchy stomach. I'm like, what the hell?
Like,
I work out 7 days a week and I can still have a fat stomach. But and I'm not eating crazy, but you have a little banana bread here, a little piece of chocolate there. It adds up. It's brutal, right? Yeah. And I'm not competing. We don't have any IBJJF events, so I don't have to make, I usually have to make 175.5 no gi, 181 I think with the gi, and I don't have that. So guess what? I'm 185.
And to the point, to the motivation point, some part of your brain is going, does it really matter? Like, you know what I mean? You're like,
definitely,
you're going, but I'm fine, right? Like it's not,
definitely,
I'm still able to roll.
Right. You're right. People usually lose weight when they have a romantic breakup. That's when they get in the best shape of their life.
I had neighbors where all of a sudden, the mom came out was like always looks smoking, and then the dad, like I was like, what the hell? Like I hadn't seen him in a while, and he came out like all jacked, and I'm like, what's going on here? And like a few months later, they divorced.
Oh, all right.
So it was sort of like
they're both
you
getting
could
ready.
Literally see they were getting ready.
Yeah. Good for them.
So they did look good. But I think the broader point before we lose it, though, is that I think it is actually not a bad point. Like, again, I could take this advice, too, is like to not recoil from any suggestion that you're being insulted or, you know what I mean? Like this kind of idea, like.
Well, that's it, Dan. You're either going to recoil or respond, right, to that implication, that criticism. I was watching this video about, you familiar with Dan Gable, like the world's or the America's most famous wrestler, like America's most famous hard ass, right? So this was one of his guys that wrestled on his team when Dan Gable was the coach. So I don't have this guy's name. I don't think it matters. And it was a very interesting story. So This guy was on the wrestling team at Iowa Wrestling, so he's already he's on the top team in the country. So a pretty good wrestler, college wrestler. And a guy who was an alumni, so a former Iowa wrestler, came back. Maybe the guy was at Olympic level at this point, and he came back to work out with the team, and he got paired up with this one particular wrestler, and he just basically kicked the shit out of the guy for the whole session, and the guy just got the worst of it. But I guess the guy was like, the guy seemed like a nice guy, and he probably was thinking, well, he's a higher caliber than me. It's no surprise. And then the guy said he was walking out of the room after the practice session, and Gable looked at him and said, you got to be a lot tougher than that. And that's the only thing he said. And the guy said, I walked out of the wrestling room, and I was so disturbed that I couldn't stop thinking about it. I went home. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. It drove me crazy. And the guy stayed up all night and went back the next day to practice, and the same guy was there that had dominated him the day before. And now this time the guy found his real intensity, and he came out on the other end of it. So he kind of got the best of the guy that day. And then he was leaving the room, and Gable said, like night and day. So Gable said these 2 sentences to the guy, and it basically changed the guy's career. Then he became a national champion. He just found his proper intensity and aggression. But I thought it was interesting that Gable just had to say that one thing. You got to be a lot tougher than that. And it just hit that guy to the core.
But it's a great example. It's a perfect example of what you're saying. Do you recoil or do you respond? Right? Because everyone listening
could have said, F you, old man.
Yeah, exactly. Or just leaving what the hell? That guy was twice as good as me, and I tried really hard. I'm sure he was trying hard,
Definitely.
And just being I was trying really hard. I'm exhausted. I just got my ass kicked, and this old guy tells me to toughen up. I quit. You know what I mean?
Quit.
You know what I mean? You could have done that.
A lot of people will quit.
Yeah. And again, I'm not sure. Maybe I'd be what the hell? Maybe I would just get pissed off if someone said it to me. I don't know. I like to think I'd respond, but again, I don't know.
Well, one of the things I thought about that story, Dan, is this idea of status, where we talk about this so much on the podcast that people are unconsciously terrified about losing status. And that's what really causes so much of our suffering. And when we start feeling bad about ourselves or a situation, we unconsciously or consciously feel like we're losing status. So a guy like Gable was so revered. This guy is this living legend. If you're going to apply the term living legend to anybody, Dan Gable would be a good guy to apply it to. So he's he's like Paul Bunyan. He's something out of he's just like this unbelievable epic character. So his esteem, each unit of esteem you get from Dan Gable is 1,000 times heavier or more valuable than any other person. So if he says, yeah, you're not tough enough, it's 1,000 people telling you you're not tough enough, right? What a punch in the stomach. The guy couldn't sleep at night. So I thought that was interesting where, we often talk about fear of losing status is a negative thing. It causes us a lot of suffering, and it causes us to get distracted maybe from what we should be focusing on. But in that case, it motivated the guy. It could help him achieve what he needed to achieve. Right.
Which is ideally how the way anyone out there will respond to any potential loss of status, if you can. And there's levels too, right? Not everyone. We've laughed in here before. I've talked about how I freely, when I work out, I'll finish a set of bench press, and then I'll immediately be I'll put the weights down and be oh, you freaking pussy, to myself, we talked about I'll berate myself, or or just so I'll do that sort of. I'm comfortable with that sort of insulting myself. It motivates me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't. We've talked about it before. I don't go you pussy and then start to cry and leave the weight room. I insult myself, and then I try to angrily do more.
You respond to the insult.
Yeah, I try to respond to my own insult. I don't want someone else doing it in the gym, by the way. I don't really need anyone else yelling that at me in the gym.
You don't need that bar rescue guy yelling at you.
Yeah. I would not respond well.
Or Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah, I don't.
You donut, Dan.
Yeah, the lesson here isn't respond well to everyone that criticizes you, because I don't at all.
Yeah.
But I criticize myself. Or we've also done it with, like, I can be like looking in the mirror and I'm in okay shape, but I'm freely like, oh my God, like pulling my gut, like, oh, look at this flab, like insulting my, and it motivates me. Like
I was disgusted with myself yesterday when I saw that belly. I'm like, what in the hell? Yeah. So I'm getting back. I got up to 190, I think, was my most disgusting worst. And now today I'm down to 185, but I want to get to at least 180, Dan, 179.
I got so, me too. We have that same weight, weirdly similar weights, and like I got down to my most disgusting weight. I got over 2020. I got to like so unprecedentedly disgusting for me that I had to like diet and start working out, and like now I'm getting back to regular disgusting, and now I got to go from regular disgusting to mildly disgusting,
right?
And then ideally I get to not disgusting.
Well, I added to my workout, so I did my regular jiu-jitsu stuff, Dan, but then I also this week I did some pistol squats and some push-ups. And I don't know if it's because I'm getting older, but it was harder to do it. Like back in the day, I was like a mental patient. You know, I could do insane amounts of push-ups and all these exercises. It was so easy for me to do it. It's a lot harder now. And I used to do this thing, Dan, where we called it the mad dog rep. So if any coach or anybody said, we got to do 50 push-ups or whatever they did, I'd always make sure I did at least one more than was asked for me. And I thought it gave me a mental edge that like I knew I had the capacity to do more than whatever was asked for me. And it was a thing, and it felt good, and I would do it all the time. And then I was trying to do it this week, and I did it, but man, it was a lot harder. Like I set targets for myself. I was like, oh, I'm going to do 25 pistols today. And I got to 26, but man, it was hard. By
24, you were like, should I really do that extra one?
Yeah. Should I really do two more? I could just do one more. After all, that's what my target was. Yeah, it was so
again,
hard.
I've talked on here, like, for some reason, I feel like maybe it's age, but my cardio, I just fighting and fighting to get it. I feel like I can do the same workout again and again. Say you go 3 miles on a treadmill.
Right.
I can do it again and again and again and again and be like, I am suffering the same amount as I did the first time. Like, why aren't I getting better? It's very frustrating.
You're not noticing progress.
No, I'm not. I mean, sometimes I do. I think that's how it works.
That's frustrating.
It's like it goes in waves, and I think that applies to jiu-jitsu too, right? Like everyone has those plateaus where you're getting frustrated, and then ideally,
I think it can, Dan, but I think we've kind of changed the game at Connors Martial Arts, where we're so focused on technique and positional training that I really believe people are not feeling plateaued, and it's exhilarating. Like,
it's a good thought. Get rid of the plateaus in your training. Yeah,
definitely. So I trained today with Dennis Medina among some of these other students. He just competed for the first time. He had, I don't know how old he is, but he had 4 matches against the same guy actually, in 2 in gi and 2 in no gi, and he won all 4 matches. He looked really good. His first match, I think he just smoked the poor guy. He came out, worked his system, his plan. We talk a lot about systems in jiu-jitsu now, and he did great. And the second match, I missed the first match, so I only saw his second match, and I was all of a sudden he was down 6-0. I was like, holy shit! And I got nervous for him. I thought it was his first match, and I was trying to coach him, and then he like swept the guy, so then it was 6-2. Then he passed the guy's guard. I was like, yes! And then he mounted the guy, so then he was up 9-6. And it was like 30 seconds left, and then I didn't realize. In his first match, Dan, he won 20-0. So now he's winning 9-6, and I'm like, just hold on, you're in mount, just don't fall off. And he was like starting to go for a submission, which he should have, and then he ended up winning 9-6. And then he goes, no, I beat him 20-0. I was like, oh Jesus, I didn't know that.
That's hard on his opponent. Like you lose 20-0, and then they're like, you're gonna keep going with him.
It's very hard.
He needed a coach there to be like, you're gonna have to be a lot harder than that.
You got to be a lot tougher than that.
Yeah.
Dennis was sharp. Yeah, he wasn't going to beat Dennis that day. And then in the no-gi, Dennis basically took him down, passed his guard, and submitted him twice. So, yeah, the guy had a tough day. But Dennis is such a good guy. He was very classy. Like, he didn't celebrate or anything stupid like that. He was like, it looked like he'd been there 1,000 times before. So it was good. And it was good for the other guy. Yeah, you don't want somebody jumping up and down after they beat you 4 times. You know what I mean? That's not cool. And the other guy was a good guy. The other guy was trying hard. The other guy wasn't terrible. It's just Dennis was a little sharper, and he had a good game plan, and executed, and he won. That's the way it goes, you know.
They say in all sports, right? Like, look like you've been there before.
I think so. Yeah, we don't get much of that anymore, though, man.
Yeah.
Like now, celebrations are part of the spectacle, right?
Yeah, and I don't have a huge problem with it, but I
No.
think it is a little cooler to not when
I
you
think
don't do it. Like,
Yeah, I like a Gronk spike. That's fine. Like he does a big spike. That's it. I don't like it when they come out and it's like the Ziegfeld Follies where they have this choreographed dance routine or something. That's a little silly, right?
yes, but all that said, I wouldn't outlaw. Like that was outlawed for a while, and I was.
They outlawed it,
and
right?
I felt like I was against that, though.
You were against the outlawing.
Yeah, I was like, come on.
Let
It
them
just
do
seemed like cranky old man stuff.
Oh,
You
right.
know what I mean? It's like
Right.
if they want to. I don't have to be a fan, but you have to outlaw it. Like let them have.
I hear
fun
you.
If they want
Yeah.
to do it. There's a difference between liking it and outlawing. You know what I mean? Like
I hear you.
not liking something and being like it's forbidden. It's like
Right.
don't be. You know.
Well, so I think I got off track. So today I was training with him, and we're just doing this positional training. And the beauty of it, Dan, is you really start figuring out what works, what doesn't work. You start making these little distinctions, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm stuck here. I'm trying to get his back, but I can't finish because he's holding my arm." And then I can just, point out some little thing that he can do. So I feel like our classes right now are exceptionally well done, and for Dennis, I think in the last month or so, he's progressed so fast. And it's about that. We're like working on the systems, on the technique, positional training. And these guys are not plateauing. Everybody's getting better.
So there's another lesson there that we talked about
Uh-huh.
prior to this, but it was that I think you said partly because of COVID and the shutdown and the quarantine, the restrictions in your gym, you reset your mind
Yeah.
to
Right.
how you want to run the
Well,
classes.
for a long time, only, Rory lives with me, so we were in our own bubble, the two of us. We would go in and train twice a day really hard with each other. And I think we both made tremendous progress. It was really hard training, Dan, but it was really good. But then we realized, how to train even better, and it informed our classes, I think. And I think our instruction is on another level now. And I came up with the term, I've talked about it before, and it's called cognitive replay. So, I go to do something and I get some result, and if it's not the result I want, after the action settles, I try to replay in my mind everything that went down, and I try to find the inflection point where I went from winning to losing, and like, what do I need to do different in that moment? And you solve that problem, and you're better than you were before you solved that problem. And that's basically jiu-jitsu, is solving a series of problems and approaching it that way. I was telling Dennis that. He goes, I love the way we're training here when we're fixing all these little things. And the metaphor in my mind right now, I don't know if this makes any sense to you, Dan, is I'm walking down a beach and I have my metal detector and boop, 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 and I'm finding a little coin here, a little coin there. So when we go to training, I'm telling these guys, there's all these potential gold coins here today at this training practice, and it's up to you to find them. Use your metal detectors and find these things. It's like, oh, if I just pull my elbow in here, he can't armbar me now. And then when you're finding these gold coins every day, you're not plateauing. You know what I mean? You're actually getting better, but you're feeling that you're getting better. You're recognizing that you're getting better.
Right.
And that metaphor comes from one of my favorite TV shows, The Mystery of Oak Island. Rory gets a kick out of that. You ever see that show?
Yeah, it's more of a literal metal detector in that case.
And this is that one guy from England. And he's the only one that's found anything. They've basically dug up the whole island and sifted through every square inch of the dirt. And this guy's found like some horseshoes and some nails and like a coin and a bunch of buttons. And the show is in its 8th season.
It's
I
just
think
going
it just
on.
keeps
They're
going
like,
on.
and next week we go over
Yeah.
there and start digging.
And I keep watching. I'm like,
Yeah.
they actually may find this $1 billion treasure next week, and I'll miss it. That's what's going to happen. I'm going to miss one episode. They're
And
like,
that'll
oh,
be
yeah,
it.
it's over. We found it. Season over.
Tune in the next.
Series over. They're just going to shut the whole thing down. I'm going to miss the whole goddamn thing.
Or it'll be the next week, and they'll be like, if you missed last week, we found this treasure chest. And you'll be like, damn it.
And then they're like, you have to, and we're not going to even talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, every episode, Dan, it's like an hour-long show. And it's commercials, but the first 20 minutes, including commercials, is a complete replay of the last episode. Then the middle 20 is like some new nonsense. And then the last 20 is a preview of next week.
Yeah, you know the low quality
genius.
shows when they come back from commercial and they just do the minute a minute over again.
They do the same
like, yeah,
shit.
we're just gonna roll it back a minute and we're gonna go.
You're so dumb. We're
Like,
just going to show you the same exact
you
thing.
dopes will sit through it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and we do. Yeah, we definitely do.
But so,
Yeah.
listeners, a point as always that applies to everyone.
Yep.
You also talked about it's very difficult in as a jiu-jitsu instructor and in life for any of us to be able to reflect on how you've been doing something a long time.
Definitely.
In your case, it's how you've been teaching classes and to
Yeah.
revamp it. Because it's
Right.
it's hard. It's like it's self-reflective.
Yeah.
And it's self-critical.
Yeah.
And it's thinking of things you were doing wrong. And I think people out there that take jiu-jitsu could see how that could be hard for you to be like,
Definitely.
you don't want to say.
Plus, you get in the
can't
habit
improve
of
this or-
doing things. So the term that I see on a lot of other podcasts is first principle thinking. So Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, these brilliant business people.
They've been pretty successful.
They've done okay.
Yeah.
And they try to use this first principle thinking. So it's like, if today was day one, how would we do this? If we were starting completely over, what would we do? And COVID, in a lot of ways, did that. It gave us a reset, a restart. And I think our classes are fantastic right now. I can just see the people improving. I see their enthusiasm, Dan. It's amazing. Yeah.
Right. And anyone can do this. It's just you don't. And again, I don't.
Right.
You don't, like most people don't, but like be able to just clear your head and say, how should I approach this? It doesn't have to be jiu-jitsu, anything.
It could be
You know,
anything.
say,
The way you eat, the way
Yeah.
you work out, right?
how should I be doing this?
Yeah. If I was, yeah. If I was an alien that just came down and inhabited this body and I had no connection to my prior history, how would I work going forward? What would I do? How would I behave? That's an interesting kind of
Right. How would I
thought
apply myself
experiment.
to work? How would
Yeah.
I exercise? How would I eat? How
Yeah.
would I spend my free time? What would I do in my relationship?
everything, right?
Right? Like, how should I be?
Yeah.
And that's hard, though, but it's doable.
I'm about to walk out of this podcast. I don't know why. I have an urge to like, why am I doing this?
I'm revamping.
I'm out.
Why are we doing this?
Yeah. No, just kidding. Yeah. You could quit anything, right?
Yeah.
I have another Dan Gable story, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. So I was listening to, I don't know if he was on the Lex Friedman podcast or someplace else. That's a great podcast. And I've listened to a lot of Dan Gable interviews. I think that one was the best, but as legendary a character as he is, I don't always get a lot of great stuff out of him when I listen to him. You know what I mean? It's pretty
Right.
meat and potatoes, just like be tougher, you're not tough enough. Like there's not a lot of takeaways, like practical, here's what I'm going to start doing.
You
know?
can't just keep telling someone to be tough.
Right. So here's the story as I remember it, Dan. I probably got the story incorrect, but it's still an interesting story. So one of Dan Gable's, he had many, many national champions, and his team won many, many championships, probably 10 or 11 championships. Who knows? He might have had dozens of guys that were national champions that he coached. This one guy, as I remember the story, as a junior, he made it to the finals, NCAA finals, and came in second. As a senior, he did the same thing. So he was kind of like the Buffalo Bills of wrestling. So then Dan Gable says something to the effect of, yeah, so he just picked up and moved out of town and tried to rebuild his life someplace. So like they viewed him coming in second twice.
And
as
this is in the nation.
in the nation. Yeah. Like a pretty spectacular result was so disappointing that the guy had to leave town basically.
Became a hobo.
Yeah, the guy pulled the hat down over his eyes and like
Rode the rails.
rashly stuffed a bag. Yeah, jumped on a freight train and got out of town. And then Dan Gable said something like, "I think he went to California, and if I'm right, I think he might have made something out of his life." Like, I'm exaggerating, but that was the tone of the
Incredibly.
conversation. Yeah.
Unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm sure the guy worked so hard, so much more than anyone else to achieve that level.
Yeah. And he achieved more than 99.99% of people who ever wrestled, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of that story?
Well, it depends if Gable was actually that disappointed in him.
The vibe I got was both Dan Gable and the guy were both in agreement that, yeah, you probably ought to leave town and
right.
start over somewhere, go to Argentina or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it shows that like everyone out there, especially in like a jiu-jitsu world, sort of likes the idea of like the hard ass that like the first story, right? Like the hard ass coach inspires someone.
Right.
The problem is then you'd like to see, like, if someone doesn't succeed, you'd like to see that ease off a little, you know, like, you know, you'd like to see like at that point, because you've had that many times, fighters that you inspire by, you know, encouraging them, but then if it doesn't go their way, you then don't feel like you need to toughen up and you know, I don't know. You'd
but
like
then
to see
again,
some
then
sort
I
of
was thinking
compassion or some sort of like, hey, you did great, or
right.
You know,
maybe
that's me.
Maybe where Iowa wrestling was at that point in time, it was like almost half of the team either comes in first or second. You know what I mean? So maybe it's kind of like they're at such a level of success over so many years that their bar has been risen so high that like basically you got to win or you've lost. You know, it's the old Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
You're either first or last. Yeah.
If you're not first, you're last. Right?
Yeah. But
I was like, who is it that said that? Oh, yeah, it was Ricky Bobby. Was that Gable?
It was Ricky Bobby's dad.
Was it Vince Lombardi? Or?
But maybe, Dan, it's you. But you can't start there. Like, I couldn't start a Norwood youth wrestling program and say, if you guys aren't national champions, leave town. Like, you can't start there. But maybe when you get up to that level of Iowa wrestling, maybe you can start to institute an insanely high standard that way. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's probably good, even with maybe with the youth wrestling, if you sort of started with that intensity, like we're going to be great. Because there's all these, like my high school, I think it was like the girls soccer team won, 88 games in a row or something like that. Like there was some, and it was like, why? Like, do you know what I mean? Like it must be the coaching, right? Like it must be an attitude and coaching. It's not like the high school had superior athletes that should be able to win 88 games in a row. They must have some sort of culture, demanding culture, that they must be trying harder. Right. There's towns around here.
And then there's expectation of success as well, right? Once you get a certain momentum, once you won 50 games in a row, then you're like, we should be winning all these games.
And they must be working harder though too, right?
Yeah.
I have a perfect example too, is like cross country running.
Okay.
Because it's not like a game like the coach can't be like, I just have a superior game plan like football. You know what I mean? It's like you're just running.
Football is a lot of strategy.
Yeah.
So I would think if I was a cross country coach, the strategy would apply to arranging the training, programming the training, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But there are schools and towns that are like they're always good at it, and there's other towns that are like they've lost 50 in a row or something. For 50 years their cross country's lost. And it seems like I never quite understood. I'm like, one time there wasn't like two guys came up and they're like, we're really good,
we're freakishly good,
we're freakishly good in 50 years. Like you never ever had someone.
Well, I think what happens is when you have that culture of losing, those guys don't even go out for the team. They're like, they go play soccer or lacrosse or whatever.
That must be it too, right?
Yeah.
Like where there's like
you don't get the good athletes
aren't going to go.
No. Wrestling has a lot of momentum that way, where I think losing in wrestling hurts probably much more than losing in a team sport. So if the team looks like it's losing all the time, then the best athletes don't want to go out for the team.
Right, and then it snowballs.
Yeah, and then if you're Iowa wrestling back then, you were getting the best. You could choose between the best wrestlers in the country. To come to
so again, I get that Gable didn't have that side to him, but also you'd think once like the career's over, then you don't want. There's no point then in like continuing.
Maybe you can't turn it off.
Yeah,
though.
that's what I would think.
Yeah.
I think he just doesn't have that side, and it leads to a lot of success. I mean, it's not everything has to be about compassion either. I think people miss that sometimes, like not everyone has to show compassion. But.
Right. Yeah. I think as long as you're competing honestly, that's what really matters, right? I've been thinking about that too a lot, Dan. I just want what I honestly earn. I don't want any more or any less. That's it. I don't know. If I go out there, if I prepare well, and I go out there and compete well, and if I win, great. If I prepare well, go out there and compete well, when the guy beats me, yeah, good for him. He deserves to win then, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you think it's disappointing if you didn't do your best, if you feel like
that's the whole thing, I think, right? Yeah. I've told this story before, Dan, about how I found my aggression in Pop Warner when I was like 8 years old. I think I told you that story, right? I'm pretty sure I told it on here, but I think it's interesting because I was just like this nice kid.
Now we'll see who listened all the way through.
Yeah. Are you still listening? If you've already stopped listening, you're soft. You're a loser.
And congratulations to those who are still with us. You're the strong.
You're the strong. You're the superior. The others should leave, go to California, try to rebuild, quietly rebuild their lives.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will extend to other things in your life too. Like you've had the strength to listen through this podcast. I bet you're going to do great.
It applies everywhere.
You're going to do great in everything.
You're either getting stronger or weaker. If you're not strong enough to listen to, close to an hour of this drivel, then I feel sorry for you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so my aggression. So I went out for the Pop Warner football team. They had a big tryout. I was born the last year of the baby boomers, so they had like 80 of these kids come out. And I was fully expecting to make the football team. Why not, Dan? I was going to be a star. And the guy said, yeah, go run around that pole on the other side of the field and come back. And I thought it was a warm-up. So en masse, 80 kids running around this pole. It's like a big herd of sheep or something. Then as we come running back, there's a few coaches out there, and they're culling the herd. They're like waving some of us off, like probably the back half. They split the group in half. And they're like, yeah, go home. You got cut. And I was like...
I didn't know that was at stake, right?
Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, I thought this was a friggin' warm-up. And the guy goes, yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have enough uniforms. We don't have room for you. Go home. And I was like, you son of a bitch, man. And, I was a Catholic school kid, this little innocent kid, and to pray at night before bed. And I got so angry, man. It was such an injustice. And then somehow I got a chance to come back, and I had in my mind, well, we get too many people on this field, so I'm going to tackle everybody so freaking hard, I'm going to start skewing the numbers in my favor. I'm going to knock people out of football. And I totally did that. I was the water boy and just like a human missile. And then I went from being cut from the team to captain of the defense, middle linebacker. And I was a little shit, but I was like this human bullet. I would just run as hard as I possibly could into people.
And maybe if you didn't get cut.
If I didn't get cut, Dan, I would be a different person. Yeah. That helped me find my proper aggression. And yeah, I'm not a lunatic. I'm not a maniac, but I think it's helpful for a man to have an understanding of his aggression and be able to use it when necessary. Don't you agree?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's going to be another thumbs down on the
I just sensed 4 thumbs down on this YouTube video.
Yeah, there's probably, I think a lot of this generation doesn't like
aggression's
the idea of aggression.
bad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You can't please everybody, Dan. I have a feeling our audience is going to dwindle to a very loyal few. Very small core. But hey, we got to speak the truth.
But these people who made it
honest.
to this point, there are diehards.
God bless them. And the ones that made it this far, I challenge you. Just go out just for this week. Try to lean into being a little bit tougher. Lean into the hard. Lean away from the soft. Just for this week, Dan. What do you think? Let's do it. Just this week.
Bit. I'll do it too.
Lean a little bit into being a little bit tougher, a little bit harder, whatever that means. And
we'll do it too. We're with you.
I'm there. I got to do it. Oh my God, I'm disgusted.
And we'll have to report it next week.
We'll report back.
And we're always honest. If I don't do it, you know me. I'll say I didn't.
You are,
do it.
Dan. You definitely are. And subscribe, for God's sakes. If you're listening to this and you're not subscribed,
not really a downside.
I hate your guts, and you're triggering my aggression again. Yeah, you're helping me find my healthy aggression by not subscribing.
Skewer them. when
Yeah.
next you see them, you might just do one of those tackles.
If you're a member of my academy and you're not subscribed and I find out, I am going to give you such a dirty look, Dan. And you know how those looks can be, yeah. Anyways.
Don't you usually give them anyway?
I do that all the time. I don't even know I'm doing it. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.